My name is Sarah Taylor, and I work as a marketing assistant at a bustling company called Bright Ideas Corporation. Every day, I walk into the office filled with bright colors and cheerful posters. It makes me feel hopeful about my job. I enjoy my work and love the people I collaborate with. Sadly, there's one part of my daily routine that fills me with unease. My boss, Mr. Johnson. He often raises his voice during meetings, and it makes the atmosphere tense. I wish he could see how hard we all work. Today feels different, though something tells me there might be a challenge ahead. The energy in the room is thick with anticipation, and I can't shake the feeling that I might face another difficult conversation soon. As I prepare for my day, I can't help but hope for clearer skies. Even when the storm clouds of doubt hover nearby, the morning seemed to drag on as Sarah settled into her usual routine. She had just finished her coffee when Mr. Johnson called an unexpected team meeting. Her heart raced. She always felt nervous when he summoned everyone. Did he notice something about her recent work? Did she make a mistake? As the team gathered in the small conference room, the walls felt like they were closing in on her. Mr. Johnson stood at the front, looking serious. He flipped through his notes and Sarah's mind buzzed with worry. Yesterday, she had sent out an important email about a new project launch, and she feared she had forgotten something crucial. What if she missed a key detail? What if the team faced problems because she didn't do her job correctly? These thoughts swirled around her head like dark clouds. "Thank you for coming, everyone," Mr. Johnson began. Sarah noticed the way he tapped his fingers on the table. It was a sure sign that he was anxious or upset. She felt a knot tighten in her stomach. "I want to talk about our upcoming project," he continued, scanning the room. His eyes stopped on Sarah for a brief moment, and she felt a wave of heat rush over her. Did he see the worry etched across her face? As he illustrated the project goals, Sarah's mind wandered. What if she had overlooked something that could affect everyone's work? Flashes of conversations with her coworkers filled her mind. In the past, they had praised her ability to bring ideas to life. Yet uncertainty crept back in as she recalled Mr. Johnson's past criticisms. The voice in her head whispered that she wasn't good enough. And with each passing second, her frustration built. After a tense 15 minutes, Mr. Johnson asked if anyone had feedback. Sarah hesitated, pondering whether she should voice her thoughts. Just as she opened her mouth, another coworker named Jake jumped in. "I think we need to add more detail in our presentations," he stated confidently. Feeling relegated, Sarah shrank back in her seat. She admired his boldness, wishing she could be just as sure of herself. Mr. Johnson nodded in agreement, adding, "That's true, Jake. I want everyone to meet the expectations that we'll have at the launch." As his eyes darted around the room, Sarah felt the pressure mount. What if he expected her to lead part of the presentation? She barely had confidence in herself, let alone the idea of facing a crowd. These thoughts weighed heavy on her. Her brow furrowed, and she had to fight the urge to look down at her hands. When the meeting ended, Sarah remained seated while her coworkers chatted and packed up their things. Everyone hurriedly left the room, buzzing with excitement for the project, but she felt trapped. Mr. Johnson approached her desk, his footsteps echoing in the now quiet room. "Sarah, I wanted to discuss your email about the project," he said, and her heart sank. Was he about to point out her mistakes? Trying to gather her thoughts and appear calm, she listened as he spoke. "I appreciate the effort you put in, although there were a few details I'd like you to revisit." Each word felt like a dagger, and self-doubt consumed her. Could she really pretend to be capable while she questioned every decision she made? As Mr. Johnson outlined his feedback, she nodded but couldn't shake her feelings of uncertainty. How would she get better? Would she ever be the confident employee she longed to be? As the days went by, Sarah felt the weight of the project grow heavier on her shoulders. The deadline was approaching fast, and every day seemed to bring more obstacles. In addition to addressing Mr. Johnson's feedback, she had to deal with her colleague Carla, who often took it upon herself to criticize Sarah's ideas openly in team meetings. Carla had a sharp tongue and didn't hold back when it came to sharing her opinions. Sarah found herself dreading interactions with her. One sunny morning, Sarah tried to present her revised ideas at the weekly meeting. She felt nervous, but she had worked hard to incorporate Mr. Johnson's suggestions. Just as she built up the courage to speak, Carla cut her off. "That won't work," she declared with a dismissive wave of her hand. "We need stronger ideas if we want to impress the clients." The room fell silent, and Sarah felt all eyes on her. Her cheeks flushed, and she struggled to formulate a response, knowing how easily Carla could undermine her. Frustration bubbled within her. Each interaction with Carla drained her confidence further. Every other coworker seemed to support the team, but getting constructive feedback felt like a distant dream. Instead of responding respectfully, she felt like her vision was crushed underfoot. The pressure of the impending deadline, combined with Carla's pointed remarks, made her stomach twist into knots. How could she bring her ideas to life when facing so much resistance? After the meeting, Sarah slumped into her chair, feeling defeated. She typed her reflection in a notebook, trying to make sense of her thoughts. "I just want to do well," she wrote. "Why do I feel so small?" While staring at the screen, her shoulders slumped, and her fingers hovered over the keyboard, uncertain about her next steps. The next day, things took a turn for the worse when the project team received news that the launch date had been moved up by 2 weeks. The news came like a bolt of lightning from a clear sky. "We need to work quickly and adapt to the new schedule," Mr. Johnson informed them in a serious tone. Panic swept through Sarah at the thought of trying to meet the new timeline, while battling the challenges that had already begun to wear her down. It was overwhelming and everything felt chaotic. As everyone piled on the pressure to complete tasks, her once enthusiastic coworkers started showing signs of stress too. Sarah found it difficult to focus, and her mind raced with worries. She couldn't shake the thought of what would happen if she disappointed Mr. Johnson once more. She feared his reaction, and imagining him yelling made her palms clammy and her heart race. Determined not to give up, Sarah had a realization during a break that afternoon. She could not allow Carla's comments or the looming deadline to control her emotions any longer. She considered how to turn her fear into preparation. Instead of avoiding Carla, she decided to approach her and ask for specific feedback. "Maybe she has some ideas I hadn't thought of," Sarah muttered as she paced the office floor. "I need to take charge and face the challenges ahead." As she returned to her desk, a spark of determination ignited in her. She would not back down, and she would work harder to convey her ideas clearly, despite the noise around her. With a deep breath, she felt ready to shift her approach and embrace the journey, no matter how difficult it might become. Today marked the beginning of her new path, one where she would confront her fears instead of hiding from them. The day of the big presentation had finally arrived, and Sarah felt a knot tighten in her stomach as she set up her materials in the conference room. The sight of the large screen made her feel both excited and terrified. Today, she would present her ideas for the new marketing project, and she could not run away from that challenge anymore. The past weeks had been filled with uncertainty, and she had worked tirelessly to improve her approach. Yet, with every tick of the clock, her confidence wavered. As the minutes dragged on, she glanced nervously at Jake and the other team members gathering in the room. Mr. Johnson entered last, his usual serious demeanor on display, and her heart sank. Looking around, Sarah caught Carla's eye, who appeared distracted, flipping through her documents with a disinterested expression. "I can do this," she whispered to herself, but the more she spoke, the louder her doubts became. Before she knew it, Mr. Johnson called the meeting to order. "Let's begin with Sarah's presentation," he said, glancing in her direction. That moment felt as if the whole room turned to her, and Sarah's palms grew sweaty. With her heart racing, she stood at the front, clenched her notes, and took a deep breath. As she clicked the remote to start her slides, the first image appeared on the screen. Suddenly, she was hit with a wave of uncertainty. "What if this isn't good enough?" echoed in her mind. Panic surged as her eyes drifted nervously to Mr. Johnson. But instead of allowing her fears to overwhelm her, she tapped into the determination she felt the day before. "Today, I'm excited to share my ideas for the upcoming marketing project," she began, trying to steady her voice. As she spoke about her vision, she took the opportunity to express her passion for the project. However, her fear came crashing back when she saw Carla rolling her eyes. "She's going to tear me apart again," Sarah thought, feeling deflated. But instead of shutting down, something inside her ignited. "Implementing these changes will not just meet the deadline, but strengthen our relationship with our clients," she continued, her voice growing stronger. Sarah took a chance and addressed Carla directly. I know there might be questions about my suggestions. I'd love to hear your feedback too." The room was silent for a moment, and she saw surprise flash in Carla's eyes. Mr. Johnson glanced between them, intrigued. Pushing past her fears, Sarah pressed on, presenting her ideas with unwavering energy. With each slide, the tension in her heart began to dissipate. She spoke with her belief shining through, and soon the team started to engage in a lively discussion. To her astonishment, Carla actually shared her thoughts, providing ideas that built off Sarah's initial concepts. Sarah met her comments with an open mind. Worked over the last few weeks, she realized that collaboration was the key to a successful outcome. The tension she had felt before melted away, replaced by excitement about the shared challenge ahead. As the meeting came to an end, positive chatter filled the air. Mr. Johnson praised Sarah's effort, saying, "This is an important step forward. Well done." Those words echoed like music in her ears. In that moment, something shifted within her. She had chosen to rise above criticism and doubt. Sarah understood that confronting her fears had transformed the experience. It wasn't just about getting the approval of others. It was about believing in herself and what she could achieve. As the meeting came to a close, an unexpected wave of relief washed over Sarah. She could hardly believe that she had successfully navigated the difficult waters of criticism and self-doubt. Mr. Johnson clapped his hands and smiled, a rare sight that instantly cut through the tension in the room. "I'm impressed with how well this team came together today. Sarah, you led a productive discussion and opened new avenues for our project." Those words hit her like a light shining through her fog of uncertainty. While Mr. Johnson's affirmation bolstered her spirit, she noticed that Carla, who had previously undermined her, appeared thoughtful instead of dismissive. The calmness in Carla's eyes surprised Sarah. During the meeting, it was evident that even though Carla had challenged her, her feedback had fostered a collaborative atmosphere rather than competing against her. Sarah felt a sense of pride swell in her chest, knowing she had met her fears with resilience. However, when they returned to their desks, the momentary joy faded. A shadow of doubt lingered in Sarah's mind. What if it was just luck? What if I fail next time? She thought. Although the recognition felt good, her insecurities crept back in. Just as she started to brainstorm ideas for the next steps, Carla approached her, and for a heartbeat, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "Hey Sarah," Carla said, her tone unexpectedly calm. "I know I've been tough on you. You did a good job today. I see you've worked hard and I respect that." Sarah's heart raced. It was as if Carla's words were a seal of approval she hadn't expected to receive. She fought the urge to respond with sarcasm or disbelief. Instead, she took a moment to absorb the compliment. "Thank you, Carla. That means a lot," came out of her mouth before she could second-guess herself. That respect sparked something new in Sarah. There was a power in receiving acknowledgement from someone she had feared for so long. It felt as if a heavy door in her mind was pushed open, letting in fresh air. For the first time, she understood that critique could lead to growth, especially from her peers. The lines between competition and collaboration began to blur, and she realized that her discomfort stemmed from fearing her colleagues rather than truly evaluating their capabilities. In the subsequent days, the atmosphere shattered again when they tackled the project's next steps. With the deadline looming, the team's energy shifted. Challenges emerged, but there was a new sense of camaraderie about facing them together. Sarah's past feelings of isolation faded as she began to engage more meaningfully with her coworkers. She shared her insights more confidently and welcomed their ideas in return. Sarah learned to ask questions instead of retreating into silence whenever she felt intimidated. The growth she had sought did not come merely from honing her skills or finishing tasks ahead of the deadline. It came from opening herself up to others, accepting feedback, seeking collaboration, and seeing herself as part of a team infused her with a sense of belonging that she had longed for since starting at Bright Ideas Corp. As she began to navigate this new reality with renewed determination, Sarah felt empowered by her growth. Each day held its unique challenges, but confronting her fears had not made them disappear. Instead, they now fueled her journey forward. Sarah's experiences echoed a vital lesson. Strength often comes from embracing vulnerability and the willingness to connect with others. The once daunting paths ahead transformed into avenues full of opportunity, igniting her confidence and setting the stage for her future. As the weeks passed after the pivotal presentation, Sarah felt a shift within her, one that brightened her view of herself and her work. The initial nerves she had felt began to fade, replaced by the warmth of new friendships and the confidence she had built. Daily tasks felt less daunting as she learned to embrace discussions with her coworkers, leaning into their collective strengths. Encouraged by her newfound sense of community, Sarah found herself considering how far she had come. One afternoon over coffee, Sarah sat with Jake in the cozy break room. The sun streamed through the windows, bathing the space in a cheerful glow. Jake, who usually filled the silence with chatter, seemed introspective today. "You know, Sarah," he began, "I noticed how different you are now. You're really leading the team in discussions." His words struck a chord, and she couldn't help but smile. "I still have a long way to go," she admitted, looking down at her lap. "But it feels different when I speak up. I don't think I would have had the courage to do it before." "Sometimes facing your fears is the best way to grow," Jake replied thoughtfully. "Remember when you first joined us? You were always quiet in meetings." Her cheeks warmed at the memory. She remembered those early days, trepidation clouding her mind. The constant worry about what others thought had made it hard for her to speak up. But now, reflecting on it all, Sarah could see just how integral those experiences had been to her development. "Honestly, I realized that if I wanted to contribute and succeed, I had to allow myself to be vulnerable sometimes," she shared. "Accepting feedback used to feel like a personal attack." Jake nodded, sipping his coffee. "That's a big insight. Took me a while to understand that too. Now, I look at feedback as a way we can all be better together." Sarah felt a rush of joy knowing that this mindset shift was shared among her coworkers. She was not alone in navigating the complexities of professional life. Her time with Carla also played a significant part in her mental shift. Whenever they encountered disagreements, Sarah approached them with an open heart, reminding herself that they were ultimately on the same team. They began brainstorming together, combing their ideas to unearth patterns and preferences in marketing strategies. Seeing Carla's willingness to collaborate helped ground Sarah, reinforcing the idea that teamwork enriched their work rather than threatening it. One quiet moment at her desk, Sarah found herself reflecting on her growth. She picked up her notebook, a place where she had shared doubts just a few weeks ago. Now she wrote down everything she had learned: the power of vulnerability, the importance of giving and receiving feedback, and the value of collaboration. By revisiting her thoughts, Sarah uncovered a sense of clarity that allowed her to embrace her authentic self. She felt the tight grip of self-doubt loosening, and a newfound excitement for her role at Bright Ideas Corp filled her heart. She understood that every challenge posed an opportunity, and stringing together those moments shaped who she was becoming. That night, as she sat in her living room reflecting on the day, Sarah felt grateful for the journey that had led her here. She found comfort in knowing that while there would still be challenges ahead, she now possessed the tools and support to face them. Those lessons formed a foundation within her, a stable base of confidence to build upon as she ventured into future opportunities. In that moment, Sarah realized that it wasn't simply about overcoming fear. It was about daring to connect and truly contribute to something greater than herself. In the weeks following the presentation, Sarah noticed a significant transformation in herself. Each day, she walked into Bright Ideas Corp with a bit more lightness in her step. The initial anxiety that had once gripped her as she approached her desk melted away, replaced by a sense of purpose. Sarah was eager to contribute to discussions, no longer hesitating to share her thoughts. During one team meeting, Sarah felt a rush of excitement when she was given the opportunity to lead. Mr. Johnson announced, "Let's hear from Sarah about the latest marketing campaign. I know she's been working hard." The warmth of his words filled the room, and all eyes turned toward her. Instead of freezing in fear as she had before, Sarah took a deep breath and began to speak confidently about their recent strategies. "I think our campaign is hitting the right notes with our audience," she said, her voice strong and clear. "However, I think we could engage even more by utilizing social media platforms. More interactive posts could really boost our visibility." As she presented her ideas, the feedback from her colleagues was positive and engaging. They nodded in approval and Jake whispered excitedly, "You've got this." What surprised Sarah most was how this new approach felt different from before. She was fully present in the conversation, not just running through a script of what she thought she should say. Instead, she actively listened to her team's feedback, incorporating their perspectives and building off their ideas. Recognizing the strength of collaboration, she suggested they host a brainstorming session to encourage creativity. The following week, as they gathered in the snug conference room, she noticed her leadership style evolving. Gone were the days of hesitating. Now she encouraged everyone to share openly. Even Carla contributed with insights that surprised Sarah. As they exchanged ideas back and forth, the once tense atmosphere shifted to something warm and supportive. After the productive session, Sarah felt a blend of satisfaction and pride. It was as if she had jumped over an invisible wall that once confined her. She was no longer simply a marketing assistant. She was an active participant in shaping the future of the team. This new mindset invigorated her, fueling her passion for her work. Outside of work, Sarah's confidence radiated into her personal life as well. During a casual gathering with friends, she shared story ideas for one of her hobbies, writing short stories. "I've been playing with character arcs," she shared excitedly, her friends expressing interest and encouragement. Surrounded by familiar faces, she realized how much she had grown in humility and courage to express herself. Encouraged by her friends, she began to set small writing goals for herself, promising to submit a piece to a local newsletter. This excitement ignited a fire within her. She envisioned a whole new pathway where she dared to showcase her voice. In taking these new approaches, Sarah was not just altering her methods, she was rediscovering her passion. In moments of doubt, she now reminded herself of the lessons she had learned. Instead of retreating into a shell of insecurity, Sarah often paused to reflect. "I'm capable of learning and evolving," she would affirm quietly during quiet corners of her day, building a tapestry of confidence with each remembrance. With time, Sarah found herself tackling challenges more decisively. She readily volunteered for projects, embraced roles she once feared, and formed meaningful connections with her coworkers. The shift was subtle yet transformative. Each day was no longer a source of dread but a chance to make a difference. Sarah understood that the road ahead was still uncertain, but with a steadfast belief in herself, she felt prepared to embrace the journey, however winding it might be. As spring unfolded outside the tall windows of Bright Ideas Corp., Sarah felt a refreshing sense of confidence blooming within her. The long and cold months of winter had transformed into warmth and sunlight, much like her own journey over the past few months. This season brought not only new beginnings in nature, but a new chapter in her professional growth as well. With the deadline of a major marketing project on the horizon, Sarah found herself fully immersed in her role and excited about the future. The complex marketing plan she had helped develop was now nearing its launch date, and each day brought fresh energy to the office. As the project deadline approached, Sarah felt both nerves and excitement, but rather than being overwhelmed, she embraced the blend of emotions. She had learned to see challenges as opportunities for collaboration, rather than as burdens weighing her down. During team meetings, she spoke up with newfound clarity, her ideas flowing freely. One afternoon, while working on marketing materials, Sarah turned to Carla, who was sitting next to her. "Can we look over this together?" she asked, holding up her notes. To her delight, Carla responded with enthusiasm. "Absolutely. I think we can make it even better." Together, they worked in harmony, stopping to share laughs and insights. Sarah recognized that their collaboration was richer, creating an effective output neither of them could achieve alone. She felt grateful that Carla had become a reliable ally. A few days later, during a final review meeting, Mr. Johnson expressed his appreciation for the entire team's efforts. "I've seen so much growth in all of you," he said, smiling around the room. "I have great confidence in this launch. Let's make it a big success." Those words resonated with Sarah, filling her heart with pride. She had not only contributed to the project's success, but had also fostered connections with her teammates. Later that evening at home, Sarah sat at her desk and reflected on how much had changed. She picked up her notebook, flipping to the pages filled with her early doubts and worries. The words seemed foreign now. Instead, the ink on newer pages overflowed with ideas and reflections of her recent journey. "I've learned so much," she wrote. "Facing my fears opened paths I never knew existed." Days turned into weeks, and as the launch finally arrived, Sarah stood in front of the team with a sense of gratitude and determination. The event was successful, with positive feedback pouring in from both clients and coworkers. Standing at that podium, Watching her peers carefully taking notes and responding to their audience, she felt both proud and grounded in the knowledge that this success came from a place of unity. The project became a launching pad for future endeavors, with discussions already underway for the next campaign. As Sarah prepared for that future, she felt a flicker of excitement. Each day would bring more opportunities to learn, grow, and along the way build deeper relationships with her colleagues. While there were still moments of uncertainty, she now understood that she had the potential to navigate through them. She would carry the lessons she had gained into each new role. With each challenge that lay ahead, Sarah was prepared to approach them with bravery and the wisdom gleaned from those difficult initial moments. Life would be filled with ups and downs, but a deep-rooted belief in herself ensured that she could face anything that came her way. The future sparkled before her, and Sarah welcomed it with open arms. She felt capable, stronger, and ready for both the bumps in the road and the joys they might bring, ever ready to embrace the journey ahead.